Greetings! Welcome to the Devlog for hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades. We're going to start as always with a quick sound check. Make sure speakers aren't up too high. Wonderful. Perfect. So, what have we got for you this week? Well, this has been quite a week, actually. I have gotten done one of the most difficult things that I've ever actually put together for this game that is going to be a milestone in terms of the game's functionality, what you're going to be able to do with it, and such. So basically, what I have gotten, they're not done yet, but I've gotten the hard part done, is our Sosig tools for, I could say they're for the sandbox system, but really what this system is about building your own gameplay in H3. So it has four critical components that we're going to be using. There are Sosig Team Masters, there are Sosig Spawner nodes, there are goal nodes, and path nodes. And so what are these all and what do they do? Let us go through them. So the core of this, what we first sort of define with this system is what Sosigs we want to basically have, to use. And so you will use one or more Sosig Team Masters. The way to think about a Sosig Team Master is it's kind of like a roster. So we can sort of go in here, we can grab our shot dogs here. We can, I don't know, let's just grab a guard. And so we've got one ID selected now, and it shows that we've got one in this category here. I'm still working on the UI. There's some stuff to clean up. Some arrow buttons don't work. But yeah, so that's working. We did give it an IFF, basically, like what sort of like who is the Sosig allied with. 0 is always the player, and there is an array that can be modified where we can change sort of like which Sosigs the ones produced on this team are allies with. So they can actually like be on an IFF but not be friendly to each other. They can be on an IFF and they can be friendly to other IFFs and in an asymmetric way. So you can create some pretty complex chains of logic of like who is trying to kill who. And it's all exposed to you. You have a max team size that can be modified. And then the most important part, we have what's called a team channel, which I'm just going to set to 0. And so the way to understand team channels, and really the channels that all of these systems work, is it's similar to the event system in that instead of saying there's one team master for each index and you have to configure everything about it in one place, you can have as many teams as you want on Team Channel 0, and every time a Sosig spawner goes to spawn something from Team Channel 0, it'll pick a random one. And so you can mix and match things really freely. You can even end up saving configurations of this into the item spawner and pulling them out if you want to sort of have varied ally versus enemy behavior while being on the same team. We then have a Sosig Spawner node, and this is going to be how we're actually going to spawn some. I'll get more into this in a minute because I want to actually, let's pull out our new piss tool. This is, it says Pather on the back. It's originally this was just going to be for making pads, but it's also for points, so it's being renamed Pointer. But basically, so I can select this Sosig Spawner node like so, and I can then, if I want to say, I want to be like, all right, where does this spawn Sosigs? I can just lay down a bunch of points like so. I can move them around. I can change the direction that they are facing. So I could be like, all right, every Sosig that spawns, actually, let's move these over here. Like so. And yes, I know I'm moving and rotating something with one tool. I'm gonna look into and see if I can make that work with Tractor, given with Tractor we also have distance as a factor. I just don't know yet. So yeah, so we've moved those over there. I can deselect that. We can also set up some goals, so I can have my goal node here. And just to show you what's neat about these is that we get a visualization of the points. that is different based upon the type of thing. With goals, this is almost like when you're playing over there in the proving ground, how the Sosigs will charge across to all try to get to opposite sides of the map. There we go. We can just have a set of goals like that, whereas the path node will actually be for laying out a patrol path that Sosigs will follow. So you'll be able to set that up and be like, I want to spawn a Sosig that starts there, then goes to there, and there'll be a bunch of settings for like whether you want them to ping pong back and forth, loop around, etc. So yeah, so that is all set up with our pointer tool. So yeah, so let's confirm our goals are in place, our spawn points are in place, so now we can configure our Sosig Spawner node. We're going to set it to team channel 0. I don't know why I'm getting that bug. That 0 should be setting. I will fix that later. And so what this basically means, as I said, is that when this Sosig Spawner goes to spawn a Sosig, it asks the game, ooh, arm swinger jump, are there any teams on team channel 0? If there is, it will be returned a random one, and then it will follow the various instructions here. So I could set this to guard. I'm currently have spawn set to on event, but we can set this up to be repeating if we want. If you want to just have it set up so that it's automatically spawning new team members every certain interval, you can do so by hitting, oh, that doesn't turn on. That's a bug as well. This should turn on a piece of interface to let you change the timing, but it's not working because of course. And then we can also set path and goal channels. What this means is that, in fact, I need to actually turn on, I need to set this to goal channel 0. I can set up groups of goal nodes that are all on a given goal channel, and they'll be selected from randomly based on that channel here. I can also send events to the goal node to turn this on and off. And so by doing so, you can have conditions in your scene that change behavior, like what goals are available and paths are available. So if you want to build, I don't know, capture point style gameplay, you can do that basically entirely with this and with a couple incoming conditions, objects that I'm still working on that will like detect the presence of Sosigs, or if you want a scoring threshold to be hit, or an object gets destroyed, or any of those things, those can change whether goals or paths are available. So, and obviously, I don't expect all of you folks to want to like dive into this to this depth, but it's important for you to understand that I'm going to be building lots of things in the game using this exact same system. So, I have, in a sense, toolified stuff that I would usually hard code. And that's one of the reasons this is as robust, is that this is all for me too. So yes, we can choose to obey or ignore the team size. We can choose to spawn only if out of sight, which is something that Rotwieners does. And we can choose whether we want to automatically clean up corpses, which I don't know if I have that fully functioning yet. But anywho, let's see here. Set this to request Sosig for 0. We've got a shot dog. So if I hit this send, this should, there we go, spawn a Sosig. Are you gonna walk over to your goal? Are you gonna, I guess not. I guess you have the guard Sosig's feeling lazy. Maybe assault? Oh, yep, oh.
I'm out reloading. Guess I'm out.
I forgot that they weren't set to be friends. I guess the guard Sosig did its job. Sorry, buddy. You succeeded. All right, assault. Let's try that again. Go to your goal. Do it. I believe in you. Really? You're not? Well, something must be broken there. That Sosig should be pathing to that goal, but I just got that quote-unquote working about 10 minutes ago, so clearly it's not working. So, what are you gonna do? It'll work when it works. A rebuilt glass bottles. Oh, really? That doesn't break at that
Don't burn
impact? Oh, there we go.
Smart.
Yep, it does. So yeah, so...
Keep flopping.
Indeed. So there you have it. There is our first little demo of a somewhat broken but beginning to be functional Sosig goal and path system. As this gets more robust, and when I eventually reach the point of having the first experimental build, one of the first things that I'm going to actually rebuild in the game is going to be the sort of team fight over in the other room in the proving ground, rebuilt with this, with a little bit of like a wiring closet visible so that you can actually see how all of that works. That'll be part of the sort of default scenario configuration of this scene. So yeah. Whew. There we go. Hey, let's jump out of VR. There are a number of other things that I want to cover about this system and a bunch of the other things that I'm building to go with it. Yo! So yeah, everything that you just saw, as I said, is still missing a couple of the critical objects that are going to be necessary for sort of like basic fire and forget Sosig gameplay. The sort of categories of stuff that I still really need to build for it are monitors, which are something that will be sort of send events when certain global events happen. When a Sosig dies, when the player fires a gunshot, when the player takes damage, when the player dies, things like that. And then also setting up deleters and setting up triggers. So one of the most important things about triggers is going to be your ability to basically detect Sosigs in certain states. So let's imagine you wanted to make a King of the Hill map sort of thing, where all the Sosigs were fighting up a bunch of ramps towards the top. You were as well, but whoever was currently the King of the Hill, like, got some sort of buff or some sort of event would transpire. You would have this sort of sensor, this volume trigger at the top that would detect the presence of an agent or the player. You could also have something, well, once again, like if you're doing like a capture points thing, you would have Sosigs advancing towards goals, and then you would have volumes set up to capture just the presence, like maybe once per second. For each one it detects inside of a volume, it sends a message to a counter that goes up. And when that counter hits a certain point, they capture that point, its goals turn off, another set of goals turns on, and you create that sort of like reversing relationship for the two teams. So yeah, but that is the main thing that I have been focusing on this week, and then I'm probably going to spend another week working on is this sort of like the core components, because I have in my mind essentially like all of the things that have been requested over the years from me in terms of people being like, can you add a level to H3 that's X sort of thing? And those are like, there are folks who really want some defense gameplay, just like I stand in the spot, I get rewards for killing enemies, I get new equipment, I stand there, I blast them away as they come at me, and I go as far as I can. There are folks who would prefer like a classic FPS, really linearly laid out level, for example. There are folks who would prefer to have just like more of the battle petite from the Kappa Coliseum and things like that. And so I'm trying to keep in mind all of those different archetypes of gameplay, the way that people would like to play with Sosigs and run around and use the whole game's arsenal, and ensuring that I have all of the components necessary to build all of those things, because I both want to provide them to you as the community, but this essentially what this system does is it provides me a way more time efficient, robust, and scalable way to build those things in game and include them as default scenarios for the various sorts of maps, which will eventually require some reconsideration of the way the main menu works. Like right now, the main menu is very much, here's this tile of scenes, and some of them are sandbox maps, and some of them are whole games and things like that. And the way that's eventually going to change is that the sort of menu is going to be bifurcated between the sort of game, like whole game modes, things that like take and hold, things like Rotwieners on one side, and then all the rest of the scenes in the game are going to be set up such that when you click on them, you will get a sort of list of available sort of included scenarios or configurations. I'm still trying to figure out the right verbiage for it all. And then there'll also be a tab for all of the user saved ones, or ones that you've gotten from other players as well. So that will highlight way more to new users and people just jumping into the main menu like, oh, you know, which map had that? I wanted to play that King of the Hill thing in that outdoor map, and you'll be able to click on that scene and see it right in a scenario list. But that's the vision for all of this, and it's going faster than honestly I could have ever hoped. I know for some of you who are just used to like weekly gun drops and things like that, you're probably like, where's my build, Anton? Where's a new gun and things like that? And I get it, but this is I mean, gameplay wise, probably the single biggest leap forward for the game in terms of what it's going to enable for you folks to all do, and the way that it's going to be the bedrock for future content for the game as it goes into its long tail. And so it's I still don't know when I'm going to have an experimental build for this. As I said, I'm still like, I'm tearing things back out of the item spawner and putting them in new places for the way that some of this works. I'm still very much in what is a scene in the game is something that is still kind of in flux, and I need to get it right, because the moment y'all start authoring a ton of content with this system, the amount of data that's going to be out there in the community for saved scenes is just going to explode. So it needs to be perfect out of the gate, or it'll be a disaster. So, but I'm feeling good about it, and I hope those of you, I hope the wait is worth it, and that at least some of you see the sort of like the potential of this system and exactly how much it's going to enable when it is all working. So, anywho, I hope you all have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and I'll see y'all next week. Peace.